Hello, I'm James.
And I'm Matt. And welcome to another episode of This Week in Metropolis, a very exciting episode because it's the first episode of season 8. Who'd have thought
Season
it?
8.
And slight change this season, just for a little bit maybe. It's just me and him. So, don't expect any exciting guests. It's just us, which we're really excited about, to be honest. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about AI and robots and future tech that is potentially going to take over our lives, and maybe about a trailer that we might have seen that's sort of related to that. So keep on listening and watching.
Indeed. But before we get into that, we just want to thank everyone who checks out our show, checks out our socials. We really appreciate your support. Make sure you keep hitting that like button. Make sure you follow and subscribe if you're not already. You can find us on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and even TikTok at This Week in Metropolis for the majority. Just search for This Week in Metropolis. You'll find us. And where can they find us? On all different podcast platforms, Matt?
They can find us on absolutely everyone. And if you can't find us on the one that you use, you're on the one person who uses one that no one else uses, let us know and we'll sort that out.
Yeah, and we're also on YouTube, so you can watch us there. You might already be doing so. Let's crack on with the first episode of Season 8.
Hello and welcome to This Week in Metropolis.
So we're back for a new season. We've had a few weeks off, Matt. We've actually been on some other podcasts as well, one of which you're sporting here if you're watching the show, Geek Catch Up. We were on their show. We actually recorded it last night, and I think it'll be going out the week after this episode goes live. Great guys, so make sure you check that one out when it does. We've had time off.
And your T-shirt, just to know as well. Again, for the listeners, we need to describe it a little bit more, but if you're watching it,
rocking the Out of the Blank merch that I'm happy to own. Thanks, Robbie. Much appreciated. But yeah, we've had a few weeks off. We've had a bit of time to think over our plans for this series. As we mentioned in the intro, it is just going to be mainly me and Matt. We might have a guest pop up here and there, but we're going back. We're going old school. We're going back to what this show started as. And that is about the last week in Metropolis, our Metropolis. And
even though we're actually called This Week in Metropolis, but
exactly, yeah, it's not the last week, is it? But no. this week just gone. That's what. This week just gone. It was just too long. It wouldn't have worked on the logo. But anyway, we've had a revamp as well. We've got a new logo. You can see if you're watching, we've got new backgrounds. We've mixed up the jingle. We've got a new jingle. We've got a new intro
theme
video.
Tune. You'll hear new backing
tracks,
fresh everything. And more importantly, we've not really spoken about, but we might have spoken about it a bit more when you listen and watch this one. New merch is worth mentioning too.
Yeah, too much, if anything.
Yeah, a lot of new merch. And the reason for that is what we're trying to do is we're trying to beat Robbie from Out in the Blank podcast, because if you check out his channel and his merch, his is endless, the amount of merch options you've got.
So we're coming for you, Robbie.
We're coming for you, Robbie. We're not going to be content until we have 200 different designs. So,
exactly.
Be prepared.
But I've got a bit of a confession to make, and I haven't even mentioned this to you yet, Matt, I don't think. When we are thinking of our ideas for what we want to do and how we wanted to rebrand it to some extent or freshen up the look, one of the things that cropped into my mind at the time was, and a shout out to my dad here, was the new theme tune, which, for anyone who knows Jeff, he's got this insane habit of when he blows his nose, he does it to the tune of what I thought was the MGM intro to movies with the line that comes out. It turns out it's not actually from the MGM advert, it's from the 21st Century Fox intros.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's right. It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dun, dun,
but I
dun,
think
dun, dun.
Yeah, exactly. And we had an idea of how we wanted the jingle to sound, and we've kind of implemented it a little bit in there. There's
Yeah.
nods to it, but even the logo itself took inspiration from the MGM lion, which turns out actually it wasn't
all
even
wrong.
anything to do with it. So
Let's scrap the lot.
Send all the merch back. Cancel your
Thanks that
orders.
theme tune.
Yeah. Thanks, Dad, for that.
For shattering our dreams.
Yeah, kind of. So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to confess live on this show. Well, it's not live. It will be live if you listen to it. But yeah, there you go. You've heard it here, where the ideas come from.
That's it. But what we're going to talk about now, and I think James is going to start us off on this subject, is artificial
AI.
intelligence, AI,
Sorry, what?
Artificial intelligence.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, mate. What do you think we was doing?
I thought we was doing. When you said AI, God, I feel like such an idiot. When you said AI, I thought you meant artificial insemination. God, this has ruined
God,
everything.
Is Hayley ready and waiting then? That's all awkward.
Oh, God.
Jesus.
Well, I guess I'll just have to.
Yeah,
Pull something out
finish
of the
that
bag.
after, mate.
God.
Well, that's the whole point of artificial insemination, isn't it? Putting it out of the bag, but you know,
it's literally.
literally. But
Honestly, obviously, I'm just messing. We did say we would talk about this, and I tried to keep it discreet from you of what my subject of it, or what my topic of AI I was going to talk about. So I decided to check out a film that I'd never seen, but it obviously sprung to my head the second you said AI, and that film is AI, Artificial Intelligence, which I think, well, I can show you now. It came out in 2001.
really,
2001.
I've never seen it. I remember it coming out, but I've never seen it.
I'd never seen it either. I remember it being advertised and thinking, is it the sort of film I want to watch? I won't lie to you. When I saw the write-ups on it and the IMDb, I mean, you can see it's 7.2. You know, it's going to be okay. It's going to be decent. Yeah. Well, the first half of this film, I mean, for me, it was just creepy. The story is it's in the future. I think humanity's kind of been hit hard by essentially like global warming and stuff. Like all the ice caps have melted, so loads of land has been flooded. A load of the population is limited. I think women aren't allowed to populate anymore, so they can't have children anymore. Because of the space that's left available, and these scientists, these crackhead scientists, decide to start. They've made robots essentially,
Right.
but this idea that they're having is that they create child robots, and they want to make the first one that can love. You know, so if a couple decide to, I mean, what's weird about this? Yeah, you can't have kids because it'll overpopulate the world, but you can stick a robot kid in its place. It's kind of.
But is that because the child, like a robot, won't eat or anything, will it? So you know, you're not using resources, I guess, isn't it?
I didn't think that far ahead, but yes, you're probably right. But for me, it was just like, you know, yeah, it's going to grow old, but then so are the parents. They'll die off, and then the kids are there. But
so
anyway,
the robot grows old as well. It doesn't just.
Well, no. If they were to have a kid, it would obviously grow old, and then you know more kids potentially further down the line.
I see
But
what you mean.
anyway,
yeah.
I'm digressing. But basically, this robot. I mean, I initially thought like, oh, I love the show that was on Humans. Do you remember that on Channel 4? Was it, or E4? Where you essentially got a robot to come and be your maid or your, you know, nanny or whatever in your house. This one obviously flipped it on its head because you're bringing a robot kid in, but it was just creepy. And the kid who played him, I mean, he's grown up now. I'll show you the cast. Haley Joel Osment, who's quite famous for being a child. Wasn't he in?
I recognise him.
He's the one that I See Dead People, wasn't he?
Yeah, Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense. I'm sure he was in that.
I think he was.
But it's funny seeing this picture of him here with his beard and everything, and a grown man now. Jude Law was in it. I mean, he didn't come into it till like the second half as Gigolo Joe. He was like a robot, not a pimp, like a sugar. No, not even a sugar dad. He was like a male prostitute basically for human women. Who wanted to like hook up with him basically. Now here's my analysis of the film. Creepy at the beginning, very strange. This couple, their son was in a coma because he had this illness that they were trying to find a cure for. He'd been in it for ages. They decide, because the dad works at this tech firm that make these robots, the company decide he's the right person to trial one of these robot kids. So he brings it home. The pace of it's very strange because it kind of jumps quite rapidly, I found it at the beginning. And from the mother being completely like adamant, this is a stupid idea, how could you do this, blah, blah. I'm sure it's like within an hour she's loving the child. So it's the pace was all a bit weird for me. But yeah, they basically, the son eventually, I can't remember what time frame it was, but he comes out of, they find a cure for him and he comes home. And then there's a whole adjustment of your actual son and your robot son clashing at times, and the robot not understanding boundaries and things like that of, certain scenarios in it. And he becomes a threat to their child's life, their actual child's life. Right. So they decide, rather than take him back, because if they take him back, basically he would be destroyed. And there was an element in the mother that she didn't want to do that. So she took him to the woods and dumped him there. And he basically became part of this kind of like homeless robot. Like there was all these kind of robots that had just been chucked out or whatever. And then he goes into like an underground robot world, which is where he meets Jude Law's character. Now, the great reviewer that I am, I fell asleep during the midpoint of this, just as Jude Law came into it, actually. Really good film. And I woke up towards the end and I was so lost, and it was just weird.
I do want to watch it now. Having you,
now I've told you it's weird.
Spoken about it. So
what would be nice about that is you'll be able to tell me what actually happened. Yeah. So for first episode back for season 8, this is top level feedback. Top level
reviewing.
But I mean, I take that. Sometimes I take that as a sign that I didn't find the film either one that interesting, or B, it just didn't hook me.
Yeah.
Or it was just a late night.
Maybe. Can I just say though, an interesting person, if you scroll down and have a look, one in the cast that I noticed there, the man with 2 first names, Clark Gregg. It's not really, is it? It's sort of ran the wrong way. Yeah. Clark Gregg.
Obviously in Avengers and Agent Coulson. Yeah. His name, the Super Nerd. So amazing.
No, and also another one that I noticed, Kevin Sussman, who, looking at his picture, that's Stuart out of Big Bang Theory, the comic book store owner.
Let's have a look. We can do that live.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yes, it is. You can see all the pictures. Yeah. Wow. There you go. That? I can't remember him in it, but he was obviously a super nerd. But yeah, let's close that now. But yeah, it was. Listen, it was artificial intelligence. That's what I'm bringing. You gave me the subject, and I bring you the goods.
I do feel though that sort of we came up with subjects, and you just Googled AI. First result. Oh, there's a film about it. Let's watch this.
No, it was the first. No, it was the first thing, and I genuinely, it was the first thing I done when you told me. I thought I'm going to watch this film, and technically I did. 70% of it, let's say 75. I'm going to say 75. Let's listen to be too hard. And yeah, it was at the start, as I said. It was quite edge of the seat sort of stuff. Like it was, I thought it was going to be some sort of thriller, and that's the thing. I think it took if it had carried on in a similar sort of style from the beginning, I think because it went almost like from one scenario, this is how it's like a mashup of two films stuck together. For me, that was what, and maybe that's because I missed the middle part. But when she dumped him off in the woods, it seemed to flip on its head and was all of a sudden this kind of like underground robot world, which you hadn't seen in that first half. And I felt that's where it kind of lost me a little bit.
That's strange.
But yeah, check it out. I mean, if you've watched it, if you're listening or watching, you've seen that, tell us what you think. I will be doing a review on it. I didn't want to do the review and post it before this episode went out. So
because you haven't seen the whole film.
And I will try and see that middle bit, or just let you watch it and tell me about it. But yeah. It's interesting.
That sort of thing is very current in terms of what our friend Elon Musk sort of spoke about recently, isn't it? I can't remember exactly what Elon was announcing. He was doing some sort of press thing, wasn't he? And he was talking about different bits and pieces. But he's shared that there's going to be a Tesla robot, which is a sort of a interesting concept in itself. So you can see if you're watching, you can see it looks like, to be honest, it looks like a human, doesn't it? Which I my doubts initially when I saw this, and I'll be honest, I've not read a huge amount about it. I follow Boston Dynamics a huge amount, which are a company that for many, many years now have been producing robots, and they have a commercial sort of like a production one now that you can buy if you've got the funds and the requirement for it, called Spot, which you can have all various attachments on. It looks like a dog. It walks around and does what you need it to do. But they do have a bipedal one, so walks on two legs version, called Atlas, which recently they released some videos which were fantastic of it doing almost like parkour and somersaults and those sort of things. That's been in production for years. You know, I remember probably nearly 10 years ago that sort of seeing the early stages of that. I just wonder if it's taken them 10 years to get where they are now, how Elon expects to, within however many years, he probably said next summer or whatever, knowing him, to get one that looks exactly like a human. It's
I mean,
how practical is that?
When this all came out, I remember seeing people tweeting the picture of. Have you ever seen the Cube on ITV?
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
It looks like the ninja thing that does all the tasks before and shows you how it's done. Looks very much like that, except it hasn't got long hair. But I'm always a bit concerned about all this stuff because of what you see it's only what you see in movies and TV shows where essentially it's all great to start with, and then they become too smart, and there's an uprising.
Exactly.
And then there's an AI war, essentially.
Precisely. So, who knows where that will go. But the interesting thing, I thought when I was doing a little bit of research on it, it's in a way like Tesla do cars, they've done solar power and bits and pieces like that. And thinking, oh right, he thinks he's going to make a robot now. How can they do it? But when you sort of read into it a bit more, what they're essentially saying is because their cars are to a certain degree automated with like their autopilot thing, there are lots of technology that they use in it, like sort of the LiDAR, which is like the radar sort of senses where it recognises sort of like its surroundings. It basically 3D maps its surroundings, the cars do. And also the fact the cars can recognise objects, they know what's dangerous and what isn't, and like all these sort of different things. So it's all stuff that's applicable to, if you wanted a robot, you would want it to, I guess like one of those robot vacuum cleaners, you want it to move around stuff and you want it to do that sort of thing.
Be aware of its surroundings and all that.
Exactly. So to a certain degree, Tesla has a lot of that stuff already, but it's car sized.
Putting it into, it's stable as well.
Yeah. If you
the mechanics of a moving robot like a human,
exactly, it should be on wheels rather than walking around the house. So Yeah, but again, like Nadal, Twim, there are so many. I was thinking about all the different things that like Tesla particularly has said in recent years. Like they were doing a lorry, like a big rig sort of thing. That's never materialised. That was announced. Like the Cybertruck, that's not come out yet. The Roadster, that's not come out yet. And there are lots of things that he's announced in the last 2 or 3 years that are still, they're producing the cars that they've been producing for a while, but there's a lot of stuff that still isn't present. So who knows, really? Yeah. But he's got a good track record. He can get into space and stuff like that. So he's a clever guy with clever people.
Maybe that's what he's making them for, to send them off to space.
Yeah, send them to Mars, couldn't you?
I mean, that'd be a good idea, really, rather than sending humans there. When we don't know we don't know the full ramifications of conditions and things like that.
Yeah, and the distance as well.
There you go, Elon. If you're listening and you didn't think of that, I'll let you have that one.
That's it. It does say on their website that they're looking for people that are, experienced in these sort of things. So I think now you've seen that film, I've read a little bit about it. We'll put our CVs in and see what he says.
Yeah. All right, we'll do that. Let's do that after this.
We'll do that after the show. So if there's no episode 2 of season 8, it's because we're working for Tesla. It's as simple as that.
If there is an episode 2, we failed.
We've not. They tore it up.
It didn't work.
But the thing I was looking into, which I'm quite excited to show you, and I hope it's not a disappointment, is one of the things I was looking into was sort of like the day-to-day uses of artificial intelligence. And I think there's a lot of stuff now that is, you sort of overlook. Like it's so much part of our lives that you don't even appreciate there probably is AI. And I know for a fact you've got something sitting on your desk at the moment, your Alexa, which is exactly that. It's artificial intelligence. It's a piece of code that learns and recognises commands and delivers information to you. Some of the other things that we use on a day-to-day basis, the way that your email filters out spam, like it knows what's spam and what isn't, that's AI, apparently. Works in the same sort of way. It begins to understand what you want to see and what you don't want to see. Things like if you've ever been on a chatbot or whatever on like customer service on websites and that, again, that's artificial intelligence that's understands what you need and sort of is programmed to do commands. And also another thing, which certainly I know I've got on my phone, I'm sure you have as well, because your phone's much fancier than mine, is image recognition. So when you're, either if you've taken a picture, that on things like Facebook will recognise who people are. Yeah, it'll recognise who people are, and faces and things like that. But also, I know my camera, when I'm pointing it at certain things, it knows what that object is. Like you'll know it's a bunch of flowers, or it'll know it's a dog, or whatever that may be. So it changes the filtering, doesn't it? I think to make that picture stand out more. If it's food is one that comes up on mine, and if it's a product or something, for some reason it changes it knows what it's looking at, so it will highlight certain elements of that. Yeah. So, you think automatically, of artificial intelligence, like in the movie sense, as a robot or whatever, but, there are lots of things day to day that do exist. Yeah. But one thing, or certain things that it's being used for now, I think are real sort of game changers, particularly for creative things. You'll know myself, I like making music. I did the theme tunes and stuff like that for the show. There's a website I've discovered which is called boomy.com, BOOMY.com, and it allows you to create music using artificial intelligence. So anyone, whether you've been, whether you're experienced at doing music or not, by choosing a few parameters, you can create music from scratch. And that's basically what we're going to do now. So let's make a song. Live on the show? Live on the show. We're going to make a song.
Wow.
And more exciting, we're going to make a song and then we're going to put it on Spotify. So hopefully, by the time this episode airs, we will have the links below where you can actually listen to this thing that we've
made on this show
within a couple of minutes on all major streaming platforms. If you're listening to this, we will talk you through the options that we're seeing. Obviously, if you're seeing it, you can see us doing what you're doing. And James, hopefully you can see and what I can see now. So how they do this thing is they essentially have this piece of code, and they have this program, and they feed it lots and lots and lots of music. So it starts to understand after a while that this sort of melody goes with this sort of thing, or this sort of music has this sort of beat, or this sort of, music has that sort of thing. So now it understands it. But what they've done with this particular thing, which I think is really cool, and is really relevant for people like us that do videos or do podcasts and so on, is they've been very careful not to give it any copyrighted material. So they've not given, I know, for example, you love the 1975. If they'd given it the entire 1975 back catalogue, the danger that you have with that is it will start creating tunes that sound exactly like the 1975. And obviously the 1975 won't be particularly happy about it, and they'll probably kick off.
Yeah.
So what this does is it produces music that is completely royalty free, and it's completely fine to use. So for any creators like us out there, if you're in a situation that you do a podcast, for example, and you want a theme tune, you can create a theme tune using this piece of software, and you can then download that piece of music and you can use it completely free in your podcast.
That's really clever.
Which I think is really awesome. I mean, it's such a... not everyone has access to the things to make music. Not everyone has the ability to make music, or, has learned how to do it. So...
And just to clarify, Matt, this is free as well, yeah?
It is free. What you have to pay for, which I've paid for in this instance, is if you want to release music and put it on Spotify, or it's different, 40 different streaming sites. When you release it, it goes on 40 different sites. So and it cost me $35 for the year, and I can do up to 20 different releases per year. So 20 different albums, if I wanted, I could create and put out there, which I have done one, which is out in the wild, which I will sort of share the link for when we put the episode out. But otherwise, the service itself is free. The benefit you get from having a release and putting it on streaming services is, let's say, like us, we're a small podcast. We don't do it for money. We just do it really out of the enjoyment of doing it. It's one way to monetize what you put out, because any music, if you do a proper release, it means that anytime someone plays that song, or if it's in your video and it gets played, you get royalties from it, because you essentially own part of the copyright of that, because you created it in a way. So it's a way for smaller channels to earn a bit of money from it as well, which is really, really a positive thing. So that's enough of me selling it, and just to let you know, we're not endorsed by Boomy in any way. I just think it is so cool, and being a music maker myself, I just, a lot of people would look at this and think, oh god, this is taking away creativity, but I just think it's a really interesting thing in the way how it works. So James, we have the option of electronic dance, rap beats, lo-fi, global groove, relaxing meditation, experimental. We'll ignore custom, because that's a little bit more in depth, because in custom you choose specifically you want guitar and like saxophone or whatever, whereas the others, it will do it just to a sort of template as such.
Yeah, let's go. I mean, it's got to be electronic dance.
So we'll click electronic dance, and then it gives us 3 further options. So I've got warehouse groove, hyperdrive, or vapor, which it has a little description next to it. Warehouse groove is house music, And it says EDM as well, which is the more international term. Hyperdrive is electro house and more electronic music. Vapor is chill wave. So sort of synthesizers, but slightly more relaxed.
Let's go for the chilled one. I quite like the idea of that.
Cool. So again, we just click the option we want and press create song. And what it does is does a little bit of thinking in terms of what it's doing, and then using the algorithm it's got to work out exactly what song it's going to create for you. And it only takes, for the period of time I'm talking, it's thinking about it and it's doing it. And in a second, we will have a finished song.
And that's literally it. So it's all, essentially, you've picked a category and then a subcategory from that.
Yeah.
You haven't added anything to it. You haven't.
No, we haven't told it anything other than that. So it's finished now and it's got the song for us. So let's have a listen and see what that sounds like for us. So I'll stop it there. You can see it's sort of trying to do something, but for me personally, doesn't quite hit the mark. I don't know what your thoughts are with that particular one.
I don't know whether it was the bass levels or the trebles, but it sounded too fuzzy on the.
It's a bit fuzzy, wasn't it? Yeah, certainly. Which it may be the way we're sharing it, but the good thing is, if you've done a song and you don't like it, you just click reject. And what that does, it also trains the AI, because when you reject it, it will then think, what have I done wrong? And it will collate all of those rejections and then try and improve on whether there's like a theme with it. So if we press reject, it will just give us a new one. So let's have a listen to this one.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that's a lot better. So it's sort of nailed it on that one. You can, if you want, you can go to edit composition, which means you can change the parts. So you can take parts out or add parts in. Edit production as well. You can change sort of the way it sounds and so on. With edit composition, you can rearrange it and stuff. But for the purpose of this exercise, I think we'll just keep it the same. One thing that they've got in beta testing is adding a vocal. And you'll remember sort of earlier in the week, I did ask you to provide a vocal for me, which is this one.
This Week in Metropolis.
Which is James's beautiful voice singing. So what we can do, you could either, if you wanted to, if you're a singer and you've made that tune, you think I'm just going to sing over it, you can record yourself singing over it. But in this instance, we're going to go to auto vocal. And what it does is it's a little bit basic, but it'll basically chop that audio up and try and rearrange it over the song. So if we just click continue, it doesn't take too long to...
I'm intrigued to see what this does to me.
Let's see how it sounds, because I think it'll auto play potentially once it's done what it needs to do. So by the power of editing, that is now finished. So let's have a listen and see what it did with James.
Do you know what's amazing about that?
What's that?
The vibe that I'm getting from it is the 1975, one of their
It
kind
is.
of
Do you know what it is, isn't it?
almost trancey sort of, electro, and
Yeah.
it's the sound of the vocals. I
Yeah.
mean, not saying anything, but
Mate,
I'm
this
Matt Healy in disguise.
is destiny. So, all right, I'm going to save that. So I think that's great. So
Mm.
let's have that. We will name it something. The great thing about this as well is that literally you can do everything by AI. So if you wanted to, you just click the dice icon and it will just give it a name. So the song title can be Mutinous and the artist name can be quote designating nomination, which is a catchy group name, I feel, isn't it?
Mm.
However, I think as we are going to put it out there and people look at it, shall we call ourselves something This Week in Metropolis related?
Just call us Twim.
Twim, perfect. So we will be Twim, and I think maybe I am
I love that
Matt
beginning as well.
Healy. So if we go to the library now, I'm Matt Healy. We've got that there. That's ready to go. And then we're going to create a release. So we're now going to put this out into the world so everyone can hear it and hear how amazing you are. Again, like I said, AI will create everything for you. So if you've not got album art, that doesn't matter. We'll make you some. So we can enter one word to inspire the album art. What word would you say we need to have to inspire this particular art?
Robot.
Robot. Nice.
Seeing as that's what the episode is.
Yeah. So we type robot and then it will make us something that we'll see if it looks like a robot or not. Again, we'll post this on our socials. Oh my God. Which I don't know what to say really.
Scarred.
Yeah.
Mm.
Should we keep which for anyone that's listening, it's sort of a man being consumed by stuff, wires and phones and so on. Keep it. Yeah, I think that's a good choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. I think do we need to name it again? It seems. Yeah, it does. So I am Matt Healy and by Twim. There you go. Genre, electronic.
Yeah.
No, Twim is already in use on stores, so we can't have it.
Oh.
Twin Boys. Twim Robot. Twim. We are Twim. We are Twim. There we go. So we have now released a song out into the wild that we created completely using AI. The artwork created using AI. All done. And we are now superstar music producers just by the power of that.
So the only thing in it that isn't AI is my voice.
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go.
There we go.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I feel like I'm now, not just one of the best co-hosts in the world of podcasting. Yeah. I'm now an elite level music artist.
That's it.
And so can you be if you're not you, Matt, because you already are, but listeners, viewers, you can be too. Believe in your dreams.
And if you do create anything using this thing, do share it with us.
Yeah, let us know.
There are, going down the rabbit hole with this sort of stuff, there are some amazing things that, particularly with generating art, there are websites that you can go to, and a bit like we did there, you type in a word or you type in a couple of words and it will create a picture for you. Or like landscape sort of things, you'll type in, you'll decide whether you want mountains or trees or whatever, and it just does it. which just blows my mind how visually you can, even with that music, like I know how to make music now. I think, well, I have to put those drums there and I have to do this, or I have to play this bit in. How a computer, bit of code, just puts that together in that short period of time is nuts. Absolutely nuts. So, yeah.
That is crazy. Well, thank you so much. Join us after this.
Hello, this is Matt and Freya. You might remember us from such podcasts as Full Movie Podcast. Well, we're back with a brand new show. Introducing the Royal Philharmonic Chainsaw Massacre.
A brand new podcast where we will discuss the latest movie news, review films old and new, and take a deep dive into the film by asking challenging questions such as, why is Limitless called Limitless when there are actually limits to his limitlessness?
Or, who would you cast in the remake of
Limitless? Sorry, I recently watched that film and I've got it on my mind.
Other films will be discussed on the show.
So join us soon for our brand new all singing and dancing film podcast.
Only available everywhere.
Well, this week was a pretty big deal in terms of a trailer, a particular trailer. And it's one I know that we've been talking about since we heard, I think probably last season or even before, we heard that there was going to be a new Matrix film. And do you know what, Matt? I think we was even talking about it in the first season. That's how far back. I think you was probably right, yeah.
I think it goes that far back to 2019 maybe, late 2019.
Could be.
So it's been rumoured for a long time. We are talking about the Matrix Resurrections. What was nice this week was you had that little teaser one where they dropped the short clips where if you picked the red pill or the blue pill, and there was, what I liked was one, I mean, we're talking about AI, they had something in that site that it told you what the exact time was.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Which,
and I don't know if it did it with you, because you said to me, you need to do both pills. So I thought, right, I'm going to do both pills. And the time had changed between the two. Yeah. So like both videos had a different time. And like, wow, how's that? Yeah.
And that's what it kind of hit me, because you know when the first time it said and the time at the time of 7:45 or whatever it was at the time, and I didn't even clock it at the time, and I was like, that was weird.
Yeah.
And then it made me want to check on that blue one. Obviously it was a different voice, wasn't it? And a different story that he was telling and different clips. But then it was at 7:46. And I was just like, that's mental.
Yeah, we were in the Matrix.
But then we had, so we saw that 2 days before, I think.
Maybe,
or maybe even the day before the first trailer came out. I watched it like 3 times just to kind of get my head around everything and try and really understand everything that was going on. I'll be honest with you, I'm still a little bit kind of reserved about it, or I don't want to kind of get overexcited, because I think we were all very disappointed. Well, most people were very disappointed with 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So whether they're coming back to try and redeem themselves, because I'm sure it still made a ton of money. Listen, people still went to see it. I went to see the third one, even though the second one wasn't that great. I hope that they're not doing it just as a cash cow. I think I said that to you the other day.
Yeah,
it is a concern. The only other thing, and we've done a post on our Instagram and Facebook and that about it, was seeing Neo with long hair and beard or stubble, whatever. He looks like his character from John Wick. You're so used to seeing Neo that clean cut, short back and sides and cropped hair or whatever.
Yeah.
You've got an image of him and you can differentiate the characters that he plays. I hope it kind of muddies the water a little bit for me.
Yeah, it does. But I watched it and thought, wow, that looks better than I thought it did. But it sent me down, looking actually into the other films, because I don't remember. I think it was 2003. The last one was, and I saw it in the cinema. So I've only ever seen that last one once, and I've only seen the one before it once, I think. Like the second one. So it's so much time that's passed, like watching it and processing, thinking, why is that going on? But then looking back at what actually happened in the last film, which apparently the Matrix was rebooted. So it makes more sense that he could actually be in the Matrix now, because it was supposedly that he died in the last film.
Well, I read that somewhere in a review, because it said that how Neo and Trinity back in the Matrix when they were killed.
Yeah.
And I was like, probably a bit like you, I was going, were they? I can't even remember what happened. It's so long ago.
No
and
idea.
Again, I don't think I've ever watched them again since. But yeah, listen, the trailer, yeah, it looked really cool. Certain aspects of it, certainly. Some of the visuals, again, visually, and that's something, I mean, I don't know if you want to go over a little bit, but talking about how groundbreaking the first one was on certain levels.
That's it. So when we was talking about it after we both watched it, the thing with the original one, I remember seeing that, and that was 1999. Like seeing some of the visual effects in that were just absolutely, as you said, absolutely groundbreaking. It was the first time you'd seen so many things like bullet time and stuff like that. You'd never seen that before in your life, and it was just watching it, you just thought, wow, I don't really know what I'm seeing. And then it was imitated again and again and again, like in all these different films afterwards. But watching it now, I think it still holds up, because it's sort of like it has got a slightly retro feel to it, but I think because of the way it was made, it looked really unique then, but I think now it still looks really unique, so you sort of get away with it.
And the stories in the first one, the story's incredible. Yeah,
exactly. It's a really strong sort of idea, isn't it? But what we were saying sort of after we watched it was, because CGI and like the standard now of CGI, even in any film, like there's so much CGI in any film now to create that world and to believe that world that they're in. How do you then raise the bar? Like, how do you have those moments in, like you had in the first Matrix, in this new one? Is that even possible? Because we all saw Avengers Endgame and the incredible sort of worlds that were created in that, and we've all seen these newer films where people can be anywhere doing anything and it looks real. Like people that have died can come back in films and they look like their younger selves. And
that's a very good point as well. When you think about some of the Star Wars films with people that have come back.
And in The Mandalorian, when they brought Mark Hamill
back, I was just about to say,
like, things like that, it's just insane. And as well, sort of, I guess that's slightly digressing, but there are certain things like that they can do now. There's a documentary about Anthony Bourdain, who I absolutely love, and I think I spoke to you about, who was a chef, and he sadly died. They've, in the narration of that, it's him narrating his own film, which is sort of, they've used excerpts of interviews, I believe, but there's one part of it that they've used AI to recreate his voice to say something that was actually in an email but he never said. So it was an email from him to someone else, and it is in the story, but they thought, we need this in the film, so we're gonna just get him to say it, like we're gonna create him saying it seamlessly in the thing. So that shows you the things you can do. I think a lot of the stuff you can do now is, because it's so good, it doesn't stand out. Do you know what I mean? Like it's there, but
I guess the difference you see when other people are raising the bar in different ways is, like, when you think of Mission Impossibles with Tom Cruise, he always loves to do bigger and bolder stunts.
Yeah, that's true.
And I know he does quite a lot of them as well.
He does them himself, doesn't he?
Yeah. I think there's very few that he doesn't do. Wasn't there that one where he jumped from a building to another one and he broke his...
I think so.
His ankle or something, like he hit the way he hit the glass or something, right? But anyway, So you can see that because you know how deep he goes into his role with regards to stunt work and things like that. So, and you can watch it and go, wow, like if he's actually done that, that's pretty.
Yeah, that's the
cool.
impressive thing, isn't it?
CGI though, like you said, yeah, it looks amazing, but they, like you said before, they all do now. So it's very difficult now to look at something. I mean, probably the last film that had anything like that where we all went, whoa, was something like Avatar, maybe. For like a CGI level.
That's very true.
I mean, funnily enough, that's another one that seems like there's been 2, 3, and 4 have already been written and everything, and we're still waiting for them. God knows when they'll be. But
yeah, because when was Avatar out? That was ages ago, wasn't it?
God knows. It was ages ago. But yeah, so I get what you're saying. What I hope with this fourth one, going back to The Matrix, I hope that if they are doing it for the right reasons and they can see where they lost their way probably a little bit. They probably got a bit wrapped up in the hype of everything that happened with the first one and felt they had to go above and beyond. You don't need to every time. Like, if you've got a formula that works, stick with it.
Yeah.
Keep that story going. And maybe, just maybe, this one, I mean, we haven't really talked about what happened in it, but by the looks of it, they're trying to find a way back.
Yeah, it seems like he's got some awareness that he's in the Matrix. He's, you know, like
he says he's been having
these dreams, and they seem like they're real or whatever it is. But I think that, you know, reading the comments on one of the articles that I saw about it, someone raised a very valid point in that, or an observation in the sense of they hope that it will be a story that is sort of pushing it at the envelope a little bit, rather than the ingredients of what you've seen so far, that he's in the Matrix, he's becoming aware he's not in the Matrix, and then he's discovering his Neo again. That they hope they're not going to do it like The Force Awakens did, in the sense of almost remaking A New Hope, like Star Wars A New Hope, for the newer generation. So it's not like the Matrix for Dummies as such, that they're going through the motions with it, because I think that'd be a real shame. I hope they do have a fresh story, and it's just the perception that trailer brings, which hopefully, I know a lot of films in recent years have done that. They will bring out a trailer and it will be very misleading as to the story, and I like it when that happens, because you never want to feel like I've watched a trailer and I've seen all of the film's best bits. You know, because I
almost thought about this the other day and said, why don't, when they're filming, surely it wouldn't take that much to, well, actually I say that with the special effects and things like that, it probably does, but why not film extra?
Yeah.
Just for the trailer, and then what doesn't, like whatever happens in the trailer doesn't necessarily happen in the film.
I'm sure I think that's the case with certain things. I can't remember what film it was. I'm sure there's a film that I remember seeing the trailer, and because the trailer comes out far before the film's out often, now I think some of the scenes in it were actually cut out in the film. So like the trailer has different bits. I don't know. One really interesting thing, like when I was looking into the sort of the story and like what happened before, was apparently, which I had completely forgot even existed, and apologies, I don't know exactly, I can't remember the exact name of this thing, but after they'd made sort of the original 3 films, the Wachowskis were quite adamant that they weren't going to make any more. And I think is it Lana Wachowski who's done the current one? Because only one Wachowski's that is credited with it. What they said was the natural successor to the story was an online Matrix game, which was out on PC. I don't really remember it, but it was, at the time, it was like a World of Warcraft thing. It was a multiplayer,
an open world sort of thing,
massively multiplayer online game. You could participate in it. You could choose your side. You could be on like the machine side or the whatever they're called, like human side, and so on. But in it, the reason, because we was talking about Morpheus, because Morpheus is sort of like a younger, sort of different Morpheus in the trailer. And we were saying about, did Morpheus die in the first film? But apparently he didn't. I can't remember him being in the later films, but maybe he was. But apparently he didn't die in the films. He actually died in this online game because the story continued in the game. He actually, in the storyline of the game, he died in that. And that's why he's not in the new film. So,
How clever is that? Yeah, that's interesting. I never knew that. I never knew about the game, but then, like you say, it's going back to 2003. I think it was the third one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because they released the second and third relatively quick too.
I think they filmed them together, didn't they? I think they were so that sort of thing. So yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But I quite like that. I like that. You know, there's a connection, especially not long ago. No, fusing like a game and a film together. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Well, we will have to watch this space on because I'm sure there'll be a second trailer and a third trailer. I think it's due to come out at the end of the year, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's December. So we've actually not got that long to wait. So that'll be an interesting thing.
Definitely. Well, thank you for listening. If you have, thank you for watching. If you've chosen that option, we will be back next week for another episode. We haven't discussed what that will be about just yet, but let's see what the week brings us. Make sure again you follow us on all our socials, and keep an eye on any other posts that we do. We post reviews of games, music, movies, and any sort of current news that we see. If we don't talk about it in the show, then you're likely to see it on our channels.
So join us again for the next week in Metropolis. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as we did. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our future episodes.
Yeah, and you can also follow us on all social media. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and TikTok.